All right, welcome to the Investor's Guide of Memphis Real Estate. I'm your host, Dean Harris, and as always, I'm with Douglas Skipworth. How are you, buddy?
Hey, man, doing great.
We're bringing you guys this podcast to give you the knowledge and boots-on-the-ground experience to be a successful investor here in Memphis, Tennessee. Please like and subscribe to the Investor's Guide of Memphis Real Estate on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast. Show sponsors are listed on your screen. We could not do the show without them. Corlin Financial, CrestCore Property Management, Triumph Construction, and Will Griffin with Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer. We are... I breezed through that, but we couldn't do our business without that. We couldn't do this podcast without them. So I help buyers and sellers every day. Dean at CrestCore.com. If you have any questions about anything, really, investment related, shoot me an email, Dean at CrestCore.com. Today's a good one. I think today's podcast, we're going to talk about interest rates. They're going to drop, and we're are you ready for that? Are you ready for the interest rate drops?
Yes.
It's coming.
It's here
today
it's
or
here.
This week.
By the time you listen to this, it's here.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, they've started.
So they have started. So we're excited about that. We've seen some leveling and some minor tick downs a little bit. But
anticipation.
And now I think we're seeing a good quarter, a good half, whatever we're going to see here. So I'm excited about that. That gets things moving a little bit more. There's pluses to this. Can be some minuses to this. So let's talk about them. The first thing I talked about was, are you prepared to buy? And really, what does that mean? We'll talk about what it means to be prepared to buy. The first thing I think about, and the first thing I advise when I'm talking to someone and we're getting prepared to buy, is the financing portion of it. If you're not going to pay cash, what does your financing look like? Have you talked to a bank? Have you talked to a mortgage lender?
Yes.
It's real estate 101,
yes.
Not even just investment real estate, but it's real estate 101 for an agent to vet a client, is to find out if they're approved.
Yeah, I mean, I like them as the three pillars of real estate when it comes to it. It's like, you got to have deals, you got to have financing, and you got to have management. Yeah. So it's like, you're the deal guy.
Yeah.
So I know when I go to Dean, I've got deals.
Right.
So it's like, all right, now how am I going to pay for them?
That's right.
Then I'm going to figure out what to do with it on the management side, whether you rehab and reselling or whether you're managing it long term. But like, how are you going to pay for the deal? That is step number one.
And
it's
asking
crucial.
the question, and asking the banker or your lender questions, obviously with the rate changing, it's like, what's it going to be at? Where is the rate? What does the payment look like? What kind of program am I going to be using? Having that line and that dialogue with your banker is important right now. I did it yesterday. So good. Not anticipating some huge windfall, but I mean, just to let him know, hey, I am prepared. I'm probably going to start writing some offers and things like that. So securing the loan, cash reserves, having those ready if you're going to pay cash. Sometimes they come from a market. Like, that's a good point. A lot of times people's cash is somewhere where it takes a minute to be able to get market, whatever it is. Just be prepared for that. If you're going to pay cash to have it.
Because we know, and we've said this before, cash is king when you are a buyer. Mm-hmm. When you're competing for offers, cash is king. And that can be hardcore cash, or it can be cash borrowed off a HELOC. It can be hard money. It can be something where you're not necessarily closing a loan with a bank and having to go through an appraisal and the other contingencies of waiting for bank approvals. That can take weeks or months.
Yeah, and so we might as well slide Corlin, and then right there during that time frame, if you have that, we've got hard money. Corlin can loan very quickly.
Yes, very quick.
That's right. So there's some ways that you can get that done if you have money tied up somewhere that takes a few weeks to get or what have you. So we've got those bridge loan. Are you calling it a bridge loan?
Bridge loan if you were going to borrow or refinance it into some kind of long term. But the point being, how can you have access to quick cash so you can be the best offer? That's
exactly right, because that can become relevant again. We've died down from that for a minute, but if this rate starts to tick down again, there's a back hold up of letting the Hoover Dam open up a little bit, and that water just comes out. I don't know that it's just going to completely do that, but there have been a lot of people that are on the sidelines waiting on the rate to drop because they believe that's when they need to buy. Yeah. And so I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Yes, indeed.
Once you're preparing to buy, once you've secured your loan and your financing, or you've prepared for your cash or what have you, the next thing I would do is to identify a target zip code here in Memphis. Mm-hmm. And you might want to choose more than one.
Okay.
And it's going to depend on your price range. So
yeah, what you're looking for property wise.
that's right. And it's going to depend on your expectations. So I've got a litany of questions that we'll ask you when you identify that, but there's several different ways. If you're looking for appreciation play, maybe there's a different area of town. You're not as concerned with the monthly cash flow. That might be a cash buyer. It might be a cash buyer.
Somebody with the long term.
Yeah, long term goal. It sounds like that's going to be more like your cash buyer. So,
but some people on appreciation, some people are on strictly income.
Yeah.
The majority of the folks you deal with are in the middle, where they're in neighborhoods that the owner occupants are in those neighborhoods, but so are investors. So when you have an exit strategy, you can sell either way. And so when you have people who are living in these neighborhoods, the neighborhoods that you're going to suggest, go back and watch the Zip Code podcast, the ones that have done well. They're the ones that are all owner occupants and the ones that are all investors. This is the middle is where you got owner occupants and investors working together to bring up that neighborhood. And those are the best zip codes.
Big time.
From an investment standpoint.
Big time. Cordova, some Bartlett.
Yep. Raleigh.
Some Raleigh stuff. Fraser and 3127 is probably more of an investor, but you still have pockets up there where there are residents that have been up there for forever. And
people moving in. I mean, it's just, there's a lot going on.
Which is why I think from a big scale, our whole city works. Yeah. We're mixed with
we had
a
that
whole lot of
the Zip Code podcast from a few weeks ago is a good way to go and assess different zip codes for what you're looking for.
That's right. One thing I'll offer up to, if this is something to talk about, this is a little bit further than a lot of times when an investor comes to me, this is kind of a lengthier conversation than what we're having right now. Dean at CrestCore.com. I can help you identify based on what you're looking for to identify the zip code. I'm happy to help with that. Go over the product you're buying. This kind of rolls into number 4. Is like going over the product that you're buying with me specifically is a really good idea. I often get investors that'll come in and use our services, meaning our contract writing, our the team essentially, and they don't lean as much on advice. And next thing you know, they bought something that they don't necessarily, or they're having much luck with. So I would encourage you, let's speak at least via email. Something, hey, am I shooting, the right shots here? Is this the right area that I need to be looking at if I'm expecting this in return? Right. That's the biggest. Yeah. It's like, what are you expecting? What is that investor hoping in return? Right. That will, along with your price range, that'll help me take you right to the area that we need to go to. So that's the most important thing, I think, is like, you got your loan. Let's talk to Dean about the zip code. Now let's talk about what product inside of that zip code and what strategy. I mean, you got to think about, are we going to burr? Are we going to flip? So identifying that and having that conversation is key. A lot of investors don't do it. But I mean, I had one yesterday, and it just reminded me, and it was one of the reasons why we're talking about this today. It's building your team and having a strategy moving forward and a plan is crucial. And with this rate about to drop on us, you as an investor are going to naturally want to be more active. Yeah. So
if anything, we should have done this 6 weeks ago.
We probably
because it's to get people ready. But like now is the time because rates are going to go. They're just now starting. So good for us. Like now.
Yeah.
The sign
alert.
This is the time. In property management, another show sponsor, they just created a real estate investor workbook to work through a lot of this stuff. So,
how can they get that? Can email in and get that?
I guess reach out to me, and then I'll get them in touch with them. Okay. So I haven't asked where to do that, but they can just get in touch with me. I'm easy to find.
Yeah.
So Douglas at CrestCore.com.
That's right.
Pretty easy. And then they can do that. A lot of the things you're talking about. So very easy from a high level.
So now we've talked about our product. We've got our loan. We found our cash. However, we're going to pay for it. We've decided we're going to invest. Okay.
Yes.
We're ready to go. Now what's next? Now in your thought process, it's like, who's going to help me with this? I'm in California. I'm in Utah. Most of you guys, I'm in Canada. Got a strong Canada presence from the podcast. Man. Welcome from Canada. But you're sitting in your home 2,000 miles away. How are you going to do this? Talking to your vendor partners, talking to our vendor partners, your team, contacting property management here at CrestCore and saying, hey, I'm adding or I'm buying, I'm going to be new. Yeah. talking to Corland and talking, when we talked about getting your financing in order.
We're talking show sponsored like Triumph Construction,
Triumph Construction,
all
all
Will
these
Griffin.
guys. Yeah.
They're, again, from my standpoint, you get the deals, you finance them, and then it's management. I call it management with quotes because it's your insurance, it's your contractor, it's your property management company. It's the little things that take it, again, whether you're fixing and flipping, but primarily buying and holding. So what is that process going to look like now that you own it? It's kind of like the dog that catches the bus. Like, what are you going to do now?
Ride that bus.
Yeah. So now that you've got your property, what are you going to do? Who's on your team?
Yeah. Yeah. And contractors are super important. Like all of this is stuff that people might be listening to going, well, yeah, but I'm here to tell you, I meet people and talk to people every day that they're ready to buy an investment property and they haven't done anything.
So for example, on that workbook I was talking about, one of the things is like, who is your primary contact for these vendors and who's your backup? Yeah. So like fill it out. Have it. Don't come with a blank sheet and write ready to buy a deal.
But I know who it is in my head.
No. Write it down so you know who is your primary contractor, who's your primary property manager, who's your primary insurance, who's your primary for this.
Yes.
And who's a backup.
Yeah. And if you need help with backups, I can help you. I mean,
you can help with all of this.
Yes.
And the point being like to be prepared so that you're not caught off guard and you don't have to slow down. And it can be fluid.
That's right. Which brings us
You've
back to the
plays.
title.
You don't get back. Like we just started football season, right? They've worked on plays during the preseason, and they get in the huddle and they call the plays. They don't get in there like we do when we play on street ball and go, you go this way. You're like, no. Here's what we're doing, guys. So you want to be able to call the plays that everybody knows how to run.
Yeah.
And that's what having your team assembled beforehand is.
Which brings it right back around to the title of just asking yourself if you're ready. So I'd encourage you to go through this, talk to all the people that we've mentioned, get in touch with me. Let's get a strategy together. You're going to be active. So shoot me an email. Let's get a time to talk. Dean@CrestCore.com. Anything else on this one today?
Love it.
Okay, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you.